When I was 18, I was finishing up my freshman year of college and hoping to stay in Boston for the summer, but that would require getting an apartment, which would require getting a roommate because Boston's expensive. Luckily, a girl who worked at the cosmetics shop next door to my magic shop was also looking for an apartment with a roommate. And so we decided to go get lunch, see if we clicked, and we did. So we went apartment shopping. She was this beautiful girl named Sasha, and she was from South Africa. She was taking a few years to travel the world, but now she said she was ready to go back to college where she hoped to study animal welfare because she loved animals just like me. And she seemed so sweet and kind and worldly, especially to someone like me who had never even crossed an ocean before. So we found a 2-bedroom apartment, put down the money, signed the lease, and moved in. And that's when everything went to hell. Sasha, it turns out, was not planning to go to college, nor did she care very much for animals, at least judging by the kitten she got and then ignored, forcing me to take care of him, and then pouting whenever she walked into the living room and saw him cuddling with me. She didn't clean up after herself, except for the time I came back from a weekend away to find my floor-length mirror was gone. When questioned, she blamed the kitten for running into my closed bedroom and knocking the mirror over, at which point she cleaned up the shards of glass and glued them to the ceiling as an art project because she was so artsy. The final nail in the coffin came when her boyfriend visited. He was also from South Africa, and within hours of meeting me, he was explaining to me how great apartheid was. Did I mention that they were white? They were Afrikaner. Anyway, he explained to me that apartheid was great because the land was split evenly between the white people and the black people, and the white people turned theirs into a utopia, and the black people turned their half into a disgusting, squalid ghetto. Now, I didn't know a lot about the situation back then, but I did know enough to say, I thought that the whites were a very small minority who got a vast majority of the land. And he just said, no, that's not what happened. He and Sasha literally thought that black people were subhuman animals, which, to be clear, neither of them cared about. They didn't care about even non-human animals, because I also saw the boyfriend throw the cat across the room once when he was angry. I think his name was Rudy, the boyfriend, not the cat. The cat she named Spartacus. Within a month or so, the way I treated them made Sasha cry so often that, according to her, she was forced to break the lease and abandon the cat to me, which worked out for the best for both me and Sparky. I kind of renamed him Sparky. Anyway, that whole ordeal was an important life lesson for me because I learned firsthand that it's not enough to just stop oppressing people. The bigotry remains because white kids were still growing up in South Africa thinking that they were better than black kids, that they deserved to colonize these people. Which, as an American, I did understand. Civil rights didn't magically fix things, but I grew up around in a pretty racist area. But even for me, being around people with such open, wanton bigotry really opened my eyes. I'm thinking of that story now because in the 20 years since that happened, South Africa has come a long way, but the bigots have somehow become even more mendacious and have gained in popularity. It's not enough these days for them to argue that apartheid was good, actually. The world universally rejected that. And so now they have to argue that the relative equality that now exists in South Africa is, in fact, a horrific tragedy. They do this by coining the phrase white genocide. I alluded to this last week in my video about how easily AI chatbots can be manipulated, using the recent example of white South African Elon Musk obviously manipulating his chatbot Grok over on Shitter to respond to every query as though it relates to the white genocide in South Africa. But Musk is so terrible at programming that he couldn't even get Grok to say that white genocide is a real thing, or in fact, anything other than than a horribly racist delusion. Musk has had more success reprogramming his other chatbot, President of the United States Donald Trump, who a few weeks ago welcomed dozens of white South African refugees to the United States after making room for them by deporting hundreds, maybe thousands, I don't know, people of color who had committed no crimes at all, many of whom were captured at immigration offices while in the process of legally completing their documentation. For months now, Trump has been claiming that South Africa has been discriminating against white Afrikaners and committing a genocide against them as white farmers are being brutally killed and their land is being confiscated. Making this racist nonsense 1,000 times more embarrassing, last week Trump said all this directly to the face of South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. Ramaphosa attempted to gently correct him, but Trump's brains are made of a particularly viscous oatmeal, and so all he could do was repeat the statements that Elon Musk previously programmed into him. So here I am to rebut his points in loving memory of Sparky, the anti-apartheid kitten. The idea of a white genocide has been spreading around far-right circles since the fall of apartheid in the 90s. Apartheid consisted of the white minority government systematically and forcefully removing millions of black people from their homes, from their land, from the 1960s through the 80s, concentrating these people into ghettos and removing their citizenship in many cases. So you understand that you can't just fix things by saying, oops, our bad, you guys can now go live wherever you want and participate in government and society. Because now their homes and their lands are in the hands of white people. And this wasn't even a generational thing. It wasn't like, hey, your grandparents stole this land from my grandparents. It's like, hey, Bobby, you were my neighbor. I let you borrow my lawnmower, remember? Now you're currently living in my home and I'm on the street in another time zone. And so from an ethical standpoint, it would have been perfectly fine, in my opinion, for the new government to knock down doors and drag white people kicking and screaming from the properties they stole. But luckily for them, I was just a 12-year-old girl in New Jersey when this stuff was being worked out. Instead, the new government came up with incentives to encourage white people to sell their land back to the black people they had just stolen it from. But far-right racists decided to make up a lie that the government was doing the thing that I wish they had done in the first place. They claimed that not only was the government stealing white people's land and giving it to black people, but also that the government was looking the other way while black people murdered white people to steal their property, particularly lucrative farmland. Hence, white genocide. Not only was that a lie, but the government's attempts to gently encourage white people to sell back the land they stole didn't even work. White people are still today about 7% of the population, but still own about 70% of the farmland. Black South Africans make up 80% of the population and own about 4% of the farmland. Great job. Because of that abject failure, in January, Ramaphosa signed a law that gave the government permission to expropriate the land for the public interest without paying the owner, but only as a final effort if all other negotiations with the owner fail. It hasn't been used yet, but that's probably how this far-right conspiracy theory finally broke containment via the genocidal South African Nazi who bought the U.S. government. So we know for a fact that the South African government has not, in fact, been stealing the farmland of white South Africans. But what about the idea that black people are taking matters into their own hands and murdering these white farmers themselves? This is going to shock you, but it turns out that that's a lie too. According to the South African police minister, from January to March of this year, there have been 6 people killed on farms. 5 of them were black. The one white person wasn't even a farmer, they just lived on the farm. In the previous quarter, he said that 12 people were killed on farms, and again, only one of them was white. Just for funsies, let's compare that to another ongoing conflict, which a lot of people, myself included, think is pretty clearly a genocide, but others argue is not. Israeli forces killed dozens of Palestinians, many of whom were children, as they were sheltering in a school on Monday, like Just a Monday. Since October of 2023, Israel has killed at least 53,939 Palestinians, at least 16,500 of whom were children. I'm not saying that something needs to be that bad to be classified as a genocide. I'm just saying that 2 white people murdered while they were on stolen farmland in the past 2 quarters doesn't even come close. But far-right bigots will actually think that that's far worse than the wanton destruction of an entire population of brown people that is happening live in front of our faces. So no, that's not happening either, but that didn't stop the president of the United States from sitting next to the president of South Africa and forcing him to watch a little video showing thousands of what he called burial sites for all the white farmers who had been murdered. In actual fact, that video showed a protest from 2020 that sought to call attention to the alarmingly high murder rate of farm workers from all races. People erected small crosses as symbols for those workers killed, most of whom, as mentioned, were Black. Trump also came equipped with printouts, like a photo of people lifting body bags that he claimed showed all white farmers that are being buried. In actuality, that was a screen grab of a video posted by Reuters in February. Those are not South African white farmers. They're victims of battles that were happening in eastern Congo, which is about 3 straight days of driving from South Africa. It's not exactly surprising that stupid bigots would use stupid bigoted lies to support their stupid bigotry. It's the only play they have left, when every bit of available evidence clearly shows that it's white colonizers who continue to murder, oppress, and displace people of color. They must resort to blatant lies to advance the position that actually they're the victims who need protection. And sadly, a lot of other stupid bigots are only too eager to believe it. Don't fall for that nonsense. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. If you loved the video, please subscribe. And if you think the world could use more videos like this and you happen to have a few bucks laying around, head to patreon.com/Rebecca and join an awesome community of nerds like the people whose names you see on the screen right now. Thanks.